the main thing, like when it comes to like neuro rehabilitation, the most important thing is repetition. Like the more you use it, like the less you lose it. So like you have to like keep doing repetitive motion like, over and over. It's kind of boring, but at the same time, people actually always like have the question. So how much like did I get better, and then like how much like like am I doing compared to like 2 months ago? So by being able to measure all the range of motion, like it actually able to tell you that like the progress that you're making.
This is Recovery After Stroke with Bill Gassiamis, helping you go from where you are to where you'd rather be.
Bill from recoveryafterstroke.com. This is episode
74.
And with me is Scott Kim from NEOFECT. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, man. I thought I'd get in touch because I get excited when I find new products that can help stroke survivors and anyone else that's experiencing neurological challenges. And one of your products really stood out. But before we get to talking about that product, can you tell me a little bit about how it is that you got involved in the organization that you're working for and how that led to developing these amazing products? Tell me what it is that you do.
Sure. So yeah, like you said, NeoFect is a company that makes a software and hardware and for like that help the people with the like neurological conditions. And our flagship device is called the Smart Glove, and you can actually like use the glove as like rehabilitation tool after stroke or traumatic brain injury or spinal cord injury at home. And so like the main idea is that like the rehab can be more engaging. So like you're given like tablet that has like bunch of like like the software. And once you wear the glove, then like the glove actually like works as a virtual controller. So you play games such as like like the squeezy orange, or play ping pong or catching baseball, but at the same time you're going through the clinically proven rehab process like by playing games. So yeah, and that you get paired up with our clinical managers like who can actually give you a lot of coaching about like how to use the product, and then so that like you can just like rehab yourself more fun in the comfort of home.
Okay.
So,
Tell me a little bit about how is it that you got involved in
sure.
that type of organization? What led you to that path? How did you start off?
Yeah, so I was one of the founders of this company, and I was actually in like business school at University of Virginia, Darden School of Business. And I met a friend of mine like who had a lot of ideas, and this was like one of his friend's idea. But like my friend like who was in like the same class at Darden University of Virginia MBA class was like pretty emotional about like stroke. So his father actually like passed away from stroke, and it already had been like almost like a decade, but he still like felt really bitter about it. And his idea, I mean, his friend had an idea about this. It's like we can make the like like stroke rehab more fun, just because he was at USC, University of Southern California. Like he was like basically studying like this kind of topic. And I got involved like by meeting these guys, and I was also personally attached to the idea because I was born with the spina bifida, which is type of disability that anyone can be born with, like that affects the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I was like mild case, but I went through major surgery, and I had fair share of rehab growing up in South Korea, and like rehab was not really fun, and I always thought like it could be a lot better. So as soon as like I heard the idea, then I was like, yeah, this can definitely change like the way that rehab's taking place right
Yeah. So it started off as an idea from somebody who had experienced stroke in their life because their father passed away.
now. Yes,
And then it developed by wanting to make rehab more fun.
Yeah,
But then how do
more
you
fun.
come up with the idea to develop a product? Like, how does that actually go from let's make this more fun to the product that we're going to talk about, which is the glove, which is called the Smart Glove, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we like before like we actually started developing, like we just wanted to make sure that like we know what we're talking about, right? Because like my friend had like severe failure, like like with the startup before business school. So like he had a lot of doubt. And I was also like super curious about the situation in the States because like I have direct experience with the rehab setting, but that's like early '80s in South Korea, and it's not even the same country like over there. So that was like 2010 in America. So I thought this kind of thing might already exist. So we did a lot of like market research by actually talking to therapists or talking to clinicians, and we realized that like surprisingly it's kind of the same. Like the thing that I went through in South Korea early '80s, it's not too different from like 2010 in America.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, this might be actually helpful invention for people who are in need of like rehabilitation. So once we realized that, like we started like recruiting the like software engineers, like who can actually make the contents and just wanting to make sure that like the device like becomes like something usable.
Yeah. So, what is the device? What actually does it look like? How do people use it?
So the smart glove itself, like it just looks like the like the glove for the gaming, and it's super lightweight. It's less than 4 ounce, like which is actually lighter than your iPhone, and the like glove mostly is made out of like silicone, so like it doesn't feel like too heavy.
Mhm.
And once you wear the gloves, then like the software actually can detect like all different types of like motions. So it's actually 6 motions, including like just like opening and closing your fingers, but at the same time like handshaking motion, and then same thing with without gravity, and also like pronating, supinating, like palm up, palm down, and this
Yeah.
kind of motion.
So, when I had a look at the glove, it reminded me of an exoskeleton. Now, it's just because of the way that it's designed and looked at. You wouldn't happen to be wearing one, would you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people say like exoskeleton glove, like when they see the glove,
Yeah.
and it looks like this, and
Yeah.
like it's made of like plastic and silicone. Like it's very lightweight, lighter than your iPhone.
Yeah. Awesome. And in the glove, in that section where the fingers are they sensors? What type of information does it take back from the hand?
Yeah, that's a great question. The smart glove has like two parts of sensors. Like, number one, these are the bending sensors.
Uh-huh.
So it's like the exterior material is made out of like silicon, so it can actually bend. And once you like start flexing your fingers, then all the data are just like on a real time basis, like transmitted to software. So the software or the games that can actually detect like how much of bending each finger makes right now.
Yeah.
And the second sensor is the main main gyro sensors, and then this part has a sensor. So this mainly detects like the motions, like like palm up, palm down, or like handshake motion, or this type of motion, or
It
like
looks
flex and
Yeah.
extend.
Okay. So basically, what it's doing is it takes that information, puts it on a screen, and then allows the software to, for example, grab a ball, throw a ball, or let go of a ball, something like that.
So similar. So it's actually the active. It's all about active range of motion. The software can't really control like the motion,
Yeah.
but it actually measures like how much of range of motion that you're having, or you're moving your hand.
Okay.
Because
If you've had a stroke and are in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind, like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously because you've never had a stroke before, you probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
The main thing, like when it comes to like neuro rehabilitation, the most important thing is repetition. Like the more you use it, like, the less you lose it. So like you have to like keep doing, repetitive motion like, over and over. It's kind of boring, but at the same time, people actually always like have the question. So how much like did I get better? And then like how much like, like am I doing compared to like 2 months ago? So by being able to measure all the range of motion, like it actually able to tell you that like, the progress that you're making. But at the same time, like every time that you're making any motion with your hand, it tells you that, like how great your range active range of motion.
Yeah. Okay. So what it's doing is it gives you, it helps you see the baseline where I started, and
Yeah,
after I've used it for a similar, for an amount of time, how
yeah,
far
yeah,
I've come, and
exactly.
that's a really good thing because that's what a lot of people recovering from
Yeah, yeah,
neurological issues need. They need to know I've actually come a certain way with
yeah.
effort and with repetition. And if I continue to do that, I might notice more results. I might get more movement and
Yeah.
better function.
Yeah, yeah, and also like it tells you, how reactive you are, because like there's a lot of cues like happening now. Like the software is like telling you like catching, catch the baseball right now, and when the ball is like coming at your hand, the right timing, you should be doing this. So
Uh-huh.
it tells you like, like how reactive your hands are.
Yeah. And it's not a real baseball, it's a virtual baseball on a screen
Yeah.
coming at you that you can see. And that I imagine that you can manipulate how fast and how slow the baseball goes.
like like technically doable, but like that specific game like does not do it.
Yeah.
But what you can do with like most of games like in our software is that you can actually like play around with the difficulty.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
instead of like for example like there's a lifting game, and then once you like lift your wrist like up, then like it's like measuring like how many seconds that you're holding, this way.
Mhm.
And then instead of like trying like 15-second challenge, it's like you can actually like make it 25-second challenges. You can actually like play around with the difficulty.
Yeah. Wow, man. I get really excited. I just got to say to you, as soon as I heard that there was products like these available, I need to find out about them. I need to understand about them. I need people to know that they exist, because when I started in stroke 7 years ago, with my stroke journey, this wasn't possible, or these things didn't exist. Have is it what is it that's made a lot of these things possible now? Because I'm seeing a lot of different versions of something similar out there. Is it just technology having moved forward?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, I think it is technology that definitely moves forward, but like, my view is like healthcare is not necessarily always the pioneer, like like trying new things, like or like embracing the technologies. So I think, and especially like rehabilitation, like
Yeah,
that's like the store even in the same healthcare sectors. So I think finally, like past, I would say like past like 5-10 years, like there has been lots of technology, like getting into like healthcare, especially like rehab. So it's like, we use like apps, iPhone, like all the time on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but like not the same way in rehab setting. But I definitely see like the trend that's like embracing more of technologies in this field.
Yeah, that's such a good thing, man. It's definitely needed. And I remember when I was in rehab in 2014, they did have a little bit of uh, rehabilitation that I did for my left hand, which was with the Wii, the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
And I was playing the tennis game. Now I have range. I've got a good range of motion in my hand. My hand, although feels it feels like it prefers to stay closed, it
Mm.
actually very easily stays open. So um, I was easily able to hold on to the Wii controller and play tennis.
Mm.
And I've got to say that I looked forward to doing that in rehabilitation because that was the only thing that was more stimulating than putting my hand in the bucket of rice to find the pencil or to find a lid or
Yeah.
stuff, you know. So it's definitely something I look forward to. Now, this glove, how long has it been in development?
We spent about 4 years like for R&D, and I mean like as a like smaller startup back then, it's like we had a lot of, obviously, like like you don't have like tons of resource, so like we had a lot of up and downs, but like eventually it took us 4 years.
Yeah, wow. Scott, how much does it cost for somebody to get a hold of the glove and the software package that's involved? Now, just for everyone listening and watching, so that they know, I don't have anything to do with your organization. I don't get any money from it. I'm
Yeah.
somebody who loves to share it, this
Yeah.
sort of information. So, how much does it cost for somebody to get a hold of?
Yeah, in the United States, like it costs about $2,000, like for buying the device, and it comes with the tablet that has the software, and yeah, and there's like like payment plan, monthly payment plan, which eventually like adds up a little bit more, but it's more flexible. But yeah, to buy, like it's about like $2,000, and we've been on the market in the United States like since 2015, and then we started like selling it to like home patients or home customers like since 2017.
Right. So, are you starting to see that there's some uptake in the rehabilitation hospitals and in the therapy hospitals?
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of like larger hospitals in the states, like New York Presbyterian or like New York University or Stanford, and like you name it. Like a lot of like major hospitals, like they studied. They're our customers now. And then Stanford University has already like published like research paper about like about our home device, and there's like more research going on by Stanford too. So yeah, lots of like rehab settings have been like recommending our devices and software, and like yeah, it's been a very enjoyable ride.
Wow, man. Is it available in other countries outside the United States yet?
For home program, like pretty much like US is the only country that we're doing, and like because of many reasons. But like we do have the devices. I mean, just like like how you remember about how you rehab, like you go to a hospital, and then they do have like their devices. So like for hospital sales, like sure, yes. And besides United States, like European countries, and like Western European countries most, and obviously like Korea, where we study our operations like in the
Mhm.
beginning, and like it's pretty big in Japan too, and a little bit of China. Yeah, lots of other countries.
Okay. Well, it doesn't sound like you're doing much yet in the Asia Pacific area. So, when you finally get that far away, and I understand the world's a big place, like I get it, right? But when
Yeah,
you finally get
we
that far away, that'll be amazing.
yeah, we've been actually like actively thinking about it, and like I mean, I it's completely my ignorance, but I actually didn't know, like, until we actively started like having this discussion. I never knew how actually far like the Australia and New Zealand are. I mean, my wife, like, went to high school in New Zealand, and so I should know better. But like, it's kind of far. But we're always like interested in, that area, and then there has been like quite a bit like constant interest like coming from there. So like we would really love to like visit, like New Zealand and Australia one day for yeah.
Scott, I think maybe we can get the ball rolling down here. I'll share it with everybody I know. I'll tell everybody that I know so they can put some pressure on you to to get more active in this space. But I completely understand what you're doing. So there's no dramas on my end. I totally understand. If somebody decided that they did, though, who's listening and want to buy it, this is a worldwide podcast. Where would they go to get more information about the product?
Sure. It's the like neofect.com, like NEOFECT.com, like N as in Nancy, NEOFECT.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the glove's around $2,000. People can order it from neofect.com or ask questions or get in touch with you guys. See some amazing videos actually of people using it. Tell me about some of the people who have had results with it. What sort of feedback have you been getting?
Yeah, I mean, like, now that we have like, thousands of, like home customers in America, we've had a lot of testimonials. And recently, like, like one guy who had a, like, massive like stroke, and like, he was a bus driver at the airport. Like, I mean, you see the like drivers that do that load like passengers, like, like moving them from one terminal to parking lot, and things like that. And he was one of those drivers. And then he apparently, like, after stroke, like he paused his work a little bit, but like he he basically like sent us like the thanks note, like saying that, like, now that, like, I've been using your device, and like, like I got back to my job. And then, with some nice photos too. Like, his main thing was like he wanted to be able to use the gear for the bus. And for that action, I mean, for usually, like, for anyone like who's not really aware of stroke, like they don't really understand how challenging, like just like closing fingers, like the action of closing fingers, or even, like move your hand and then locate it onto something, like how challenging it is, like they don't know. But this guy, his main thing was like really like being able to use the like, right hand, like, to the gear, because that was the affected hand. And then, but he was like thanking us, saying that, like, using your device like very constantly, that I was able to see the progress in numbers. But at the same time, most importantly, like he got back to his normal job. So
Yeah.
things like this, like, it's very rewarding for me. And I was also the one like who deal with my physical challenges, growing up.
Yeah. So you're somebody who can relate to what somebody with a disability is going through because you've been through that. And it's amazing that a lot of people who have experienced neurological condition or some other kind of form of disability are so motivated to find solutions. And it's a really strange thing because I'm glad that you went through that to discover, this creative part of you that enables you to create these solutions. But of course, I'd rather you didn't have spina bifida, or other people didn't have stroke, but we do. It's just so good that, we put our focus into these amazing tasks because they're so needed and there's not enough work out there. And I know that doctors and therapists do their best to help us, and that's what they devote their life to, and I'm ever grateful for that. But it's always a little better to get somebody that's on your team who's been through the same journey that you've been through or something similar.
Yeah, yeah.
basically what I'm saying is, man, thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. We'll share this far and wide, and we'll get some cool images of the glove that you're wearing to online to support that, and we'll create some links back to people who are wanting more information. And also, if somebody happens to be listening to this on the podcast app or their favorite podcast app, actually jump on the YouTube channel. I'll have a link to the YouTube video where they can actually see you wearing the glove and see what it looks like, and because that's a really cool thing to see.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Scott, Kim from NEOFECT, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Discover how to support your recovery after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com.